Welcome to Gamblin Ramblin, a weekly show where we react, rant, rave about the weekend in sports betting. I'm Tim Kalinowski. I'm joined by Charlie DiSturco. You can follow us both on the Action app, T Kalinowski 12. Again, you probably don't even care about that, but also make sure you look out for us on the Action YouTube channel, Action Network HQ on TikTok and Twitter. We're here. It's Tuesday, and Charlie, TCU finally lost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to victory lap and try to victory lap as much as that I can of TCU finally going down. Sonny Dykes costing me a lot of money, but I got my money's worth this past weekend, fading him in the Big 12 championship. I am sorry, though, about your future on TCU, because I know that you were spending it expecting the win, and you didn't get that.
No, spent it already a million different ways. So that was tough. And also, like, just watching Max Duggan at the end of that game, man, I mean, we'll talk about it. These Heisman odds are, obviously it looks like, I guess, Williams wrapped it up, but I mean, Duggan is such a dog, man. He is such a baller. I was like actually inspired by I was like, let's go. This guy, he's saying, I will die on this field before I lose. We are going undefeated. We're winning this championship, and you were going to have to scrape me off the field before I lose this game.
I legitimately thought that he was going to die on the field. I thought that there was like a 50-50 shot at some point, because he was taking such big hit after big hit that it was honestly sold me, though. Like you said, like, I don't like this DCU team because they've cost me a fortune in this season. But that like last game, it almost was similar of the UCLA USC game from a couple weeks ago when we were texting, and how DTR was hurt. And it almost seemed like he was the same way, where he was going to die on this field before they lost. And obviously both teams ended up losing, but they both showed like that heart that I very much liked. The speaking of like the heart and not having it.
I wonder where this is going.
Your Clemson Tigers, man. I mean, I don't know what's going on with it. 2 in a row where they lose to South Carolina, then they come out. DJ comes out dud. Finally, Klubnik comes in, and I mean, he looks phenomenal, but it was against your firstborn son, Drake May. I'm sure you were battling your happiness and sadness at the same time. So yeah, as we went into that, I was saying to myself, like, after Clemson lost, we've talked on the show how basically because Clemson had blown their opportunity to get in the playoff, I was like, I'm rooting for destruction. I want them to get destroyed in the ACC championship game, because we were saying, like, that's how changes happen. That's how serious reflection is done, looking into the mirror. How can we ensure that this never happens again? And the other thing was, like, if you're gonna play Cade, like, right, so Cade, DJ can't throw the ball 4 feet, like basically the story has been all year. So Dabo's hand is finally forced. He goes to Cade, and it's like Cade goes out there and goes 10 for 11 in his the first half of that game. Guys absolutely balling out, and it was such bittersweet feeling, because Party was like, this is so awesome. We feel that Cade is legit. He wins the MVP of the game. And then it's like, why in the world could we have not done this earlier in the season? Like, it almost feels like Dabo's ex-girlfriend is DJ, and like he keeps going back to her. Like, it's just like, oh, played awful against Syracuse, let's put in Klubnik. Klubnik comes back, wins that game. No, still our quarterback DJ. I get like once or twice, but it got to the point where it was repetitive, where he just kept going back, and it was like, man, the obvious answer's in front of you. No, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching Clemson this year, I'm like, does DJ have like naked photos of Dabo? Like, does he have something over his head? Because this guy does not deserve to keep playing. And like, I'll just say this. I give DJ a ton of credit. The way, I don't know if you saw after the game, the report, they had a bunch of reporters talking to him. It wasn't the ESPN. It was someone else, the local news. And they're just like, they're trying to get the quote out of him. Like, this sucks. This is terrible. And he was such a class act. And that's why it was so hard to root against him, because you knew he was not the guy, but you felt bad because you could also tell that he knew he wasn't the guy. And that made you feel bad. And I have nothing but good things to say about him as a player. It's just so disappointing to see what was standing right behind DJ this entire year, and Dabo doesn't go to him until it really doesn't matter. It almost felt like Penn State too. Like, I don't know if you've watched Penn State throughout the year too, but same idea. Yeah, same idea. Like, Clifford is not the guy, and it's for some reason he's still in every week. and it's not a knock on these players as people, because like,
No,
like you said, DJ's a great player, but and a person, but when it comes down to it, you want to win games. And Clemson, I personally, if Clemson goes to Klubnik against South Carolina, I think they sweep South
they
Carolina, they
do.
beat UNC, and they're in the college football playoffs, especially how everything shaked out with USC going down to Utah.
That's what's so hard about it. And like I said, my second, my not, would you say my not son, my not born son?
It's your firstborn son and your favorite team. I'd said Drake May's
Yeah,
kind of like your firstborn son at this point.
I love Drake May. I do love me some Drake May. He is going to be good for years to come. And like, so that's what I'm saying. When I watched Drake May this year, it's like if Drake May was Clemson's quarterback, they'd be undefeated, right? And when we see Cade come off the bench and look that kind of Drake May-esque with his ability to extend plays, he's super accurate with the ball. It's like, what were we doing all year? Like, it's just, again, it's so tough. It's like, Dabo, man, you need to be held accountable for that. He made the decision before when he went for Lawrence over Kelly Bryant. And it's like, we're waiting for this all year. And it actually stings more that he didn't do it till the end of the year.
Yeah, because you lost the college football playoffs because of the decision. Yep. That's like that. Yep. It doesn't make sense that head coaches are so not in tune with like the now. Like they don't understand that they need to win games. It doesn't matter if you hurt your players' feelings or like if you look wrong or if you're wrong, admit you're wrong and move on. And you can win. Like if you accept it, it'll go better.
And DJ's announced he's transferring. It was obvious that DJ was going to be transferring like well throughout this year. So at that point, why not? You didn't need DJ anymore. It's like, why not just play Cade? Like, Matt Mitchell would text me all the time. He'd be like, DJ's going to look real good at, Missouri State next year. And it's like, he would say that to me. It's like, yeah, it's true. So it's like, why couldn't you just go to Cade when you needed him and really give him a shot? And they're like, against Notre Dame, Cade wasn't ready. It's like, oh yeah, on your own 5-yard line, down 14 points on the road against a good Notre Dame team, and the true freshman wasn't ready. DJ wasn't ready for that.
Dude, not only was it goes back to our conversation last week where like backup quarterbacks, sometimes you just admit that you're wrong, and these guys that come in, something's different. You can't tell me that he was ready for that Syracuse game, that they randomly threw him down in the fire
exactly
behind against Syracuse, and look what he did. Obviously, questionable calls on that roughing the passer, out of bound, late hit, all that stuff.
No, they nailed it. Obviously, great calls.
Yeah, great calls. But it just doesn't matter. Like if at the end of the day, they won, and Dabo has to take that into account and not be like, oh, he's not ready, because the best way to get ready is by throwing a guy right into the fire. Yeah. And if he's that talented and that good, you might as well do it. And that's exactly what happened. And we saw it against UNC.
Throwing into the fire, but like with a chance, like not down 14 on your own 5. That's like when they would play him, right? Like, with reason, like give him the game.
Yeah, or you wouldn't get it. Yeah, when you're getting like absolutely slaughtered and you're like, all right, just throw him in there. Like that's different because he's not getting the actual in-game action that you need him to get. Like it's like, bro, it doesn't take like a genius to know when to swap out some of these guys or like when to just even give them a chance. Like, so obviously DJ can't throw the ball.
Right.
Klubnik can. At the end of the day, you got to go with what you got to go with. And you got to accept that you're wrong at times. But some of these head coaches are so old and very stubborn and stuck in their ways that they're not going to admit it.
Yeah, I saw about 3 or 4 quarterbacks in Division II Massachusetts football this year that threw the ball better than DJ. So that, I mean, that is what it is. I think one of the surprises too we saw, not surprised that they didn't get in, but the idea that, this was a team that was one of the big favorites going into the year. No Alabama in the playoff. Saban begging them to get in. He's citing Vegas as why they should get in. And it's like, Saban, I love the Vegas reference, man, but if we're just going to go off odds, why do we play the games?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that there's a baseline to it at a degree. Like we talked about this last week. Ohio State hasn't had a great schedule. They go out and their wins are very questionable. Like they beat Notre Dame when Notre Dame was not ready. So like that win looks like, oh, it's a win over Notre Dame, but the Notre Dame now isn't the Notre Dame of last year. Like they've progressed so much more under the new head coach. Alabama lost to LSU and Tennessee. And if Hendon Hooker doesn't get hurt, we're talking about Tennessee maybe even sliding into the college football playoffs. I don't know. I think Alabama should have been in. More importantly, TCU did get in, but, and Tim, we have to talk about this, the Heisman odds. I know that I was looking at this yesterday and I asked you, am I crazy? Am I crazy for thinking that Caleb Williams at minus 2,500 around there and Duggan at plus 2,000? Those are the top two. How are they so far apart? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I maybe it's because I watched Max Duggan literally like throw his body on the line and almost like die on the field versus Caleb Williams was extremely non-competitive after he took a couple of hits and got hurt. I don't know what it is, but I think that's kind of absurd. I don't know your thoughts.
No, I'm with you. And I was with you. And then we deferred to the, Action College Football Slack channel. And he said, am I crazy for thinking that Caleb shouldn't be this big a favorite? And just all it was yes.
Yeah, I didn't even get a response. I was just yes. Can I get some information? Like, you look at
we're trying to learn here. We're trying to learn here.
Yeah, you're looking at it. I'm a kid. I'm sitting at the kids table. I consult the adults. All I get is a 3-letter word, yes. And I'm like, bro, look at these differences. Like, the Big 12 defense, better than the Pac-12 defense. Max Duggan doesn't get to play Colorado in the beginning, comes in as a backup quarterback, theoretically, even though he played in the past, puts up these gaudy numbers. Yes, Caleb Williams was unbelievable too. Max Duggan lost once, and it was in overtime in the Pac-12. In the Big 12 championship. Caleb Williams lost twice to Utah, almost lost to Oregon State, and had the likes of playing against teams like Rice and Colorado. Like, we saw how big of a program Colorado is. We might as well blow it up, but now we have prime time. But like, I don't understand how this is so far apart. Like, the stats are not that different when you break it down. Like, Duggan has like 700 less passing yards, has a few less touchdowns, but again, he's playing in a harder conference.
The Big 12 was real good this year.
Yeah, you look at the most points per game as far as like comparing the two teams, and you have USC's all the way down at 11th on defense, and TCU's up at 4th on defense. So you're looking at these defenses, you're like, okay, they're like, TCU has the edge. But if you look at the Big 12 as a whole, there's so many more teams, like Kansas, 20.1 points per game. Iowa State, 20.3. You know what TCU did against Iowa State? They bullied them. Then you look at like Pac-12 and how Pac-12's done. He could barely score against some of these bad defenses. And at times, like Oregon State, very average. He should have lost that game. It was absurd. I don't understand how it's so far apart. Like, I think it's a 2-horse race at that point because Corum went down with injury. But then you would also go with, Corum's stats and Hendon Hooker's stats were just as good at the time. What are we doing here? Rewarding Caleb for getting hurt in that Pac-12 title game and getting absolutely demolished by Utah for the second time. You have more losses than Max Duggan.
My issue is the idea of like falling kind of into winning the Heisman. And I don't mean that to say that Caleb Williams is an undeserving Heisman. I'm disappointed at the way that all the other candidates just flamed out either through injury or poor play. And it's like, Caleb also got injured. So going into the weekend, Caleb became the favorite at, I don't know, was it minus 120? He was a big favorite going into Notre Dame. Okay. The week before, he's about minus 120. And then all he does is have a great game against Notre Dame. And then he gets hurt and gets blown out in the following one. And we're like, yeah, that's our Heisman. It's like, to me, that wasn't totally a locked, tight sealed, great case for it in those last two games, because, like I said, I feel a little unsatisfied about the whole thing after, maybe just because I watched Doug, like, we didn't have the Heisman moment this year. We didn't.
Right.
And the Heisman moment to us was Duggan on that last drive in the Big 12 championship. So I think that's why I don't feel satisfied, is because we didn't get the Heisman moment. Like, Caleb Williams certainly did not really give us a Heisman moment, maybe because they blew out Notre Dame. But that's what I kind of feel like we were robbed of this year.
But he only had 230 yards and a touchdown. Like, he had 3 on the ground, but it just didn't feel like Caleb Williams. Like, obviously, if he played UCLA in like the final game, it would have been different. Maybe that we come in with a different feeling because he played his head off against UCLA, even though he only had 2 passing touchdowns in the pick. But he had totaled 470 yards. I think it was weird because it was like during that Utah game, my friends are sitting on the couch and they're nudging me and they're like, yo, that run, the 59-yard run against Utah, they're like, that's his Heisman moment. That's his Heisman moment. And they went up like 17, whatever. They went up like a couple of scores. And then they just got absolutely blown out. And it was that can't be his Heisman moment, because ever since you said it was his Heisman, it was almost like you mushing Drake May. My friends were like, that's his Heisman moment. Like, they're rolling Utah, and it's immediately like the game
No,
script flipped.
thank you for squeezing that in. Yeah, no, thank you. I really
Yeah,
appreciate you making sure that you told me that Elsa Bush Drake May again. Thank you.
yeah.
Appreciate that.
I mean, I have to remind you of your shortcomings at times. You can do the same thing to me. I mean, the Jets are 0-2 against the Patriots.
Well, I mean, I see. I know the Patriots suck. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't give you a hard time. I will say too, with it felt like Caleb Williams because he plays on the West Coast. The entire country watched him play against UCLA and then against Notre Dame, and they're like, "Dude, this guy's really good." It's like, yeah, we know. Can we also like analyze the body of work here and not really the body of work that the competitors like they're because I think Duggan like really deserves more credit.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams had 400 yards against Arizona, 360 against Cal. It's like, oh, great. You beat two of the worst teams in the Pac-12 and you beat up on them. Duggan had to go out, throw 327 yards against Baylor. He had to go out the game against West Virginia, which is absolutely seared into my skull from that bad beat. He had a day. Oklahoma State comes back and wins in double overtime. Kansas State in the first game, they were down 28-0 at half and they won. Yep. It just doesn't make like you see some of these games that you watch and you're like, that's my Heisman. Or was it 28-0? It was 28-17 or 28-7, whatever it was, 28-10. But you see these guys.
If you say anything, I'm going to believe you. I know it was a comeback.
Yeah, it was a comeback, and you know this is the kids talking here. But
we watched the games. That's the point. We watched the games.
Yes, we watched him play, and we watched him come back, and we watched him pull off these things that listen. Don't he screwed me. He screwed me out of a lot of bets. But like at the end of the day, that was because he pulled off some of the things that you would say was impossible or things that you would never expect. Versus Caleb Williams, it always felt like they were up. Also, Caleb Williams' surrounding cast is so much better.
Yeah,
the TCU's like Kendra Miller's great, but like, I mean, you don't have Addison and like some of the other guys that USC has that are
Washington. They're stacked.
It doesn't make sense that they're giving Max Duggan almost like discredit because he did it in a Big 12, and they were like, oh, you didn't win the title game, but it's like USC.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's so wrong. The way they got there is so wrong. I couldn't agree more. Any more college football thoughts before I ask you about Mike White?
No, but I don't like that Ohio State's in. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, I hope they get destroyed.
Oh, also Jaxon Smith-Njigba. How is Jaxon Smith-Njigba taking off the college football playoffs? I understand if it's a random bowl game, but this is like the playoffs. Like this is different than a regular season game, a bowl game where it's meaningless, and like the Idaho Potato Bowl. Like
they said he was not gonna be able to rehab in time. Which do you believe?
No. I mean, do you believe that Kadarius Toney was hurt with a hamstring injury and then he got traded to the Chiefs and then magically
then he got hurt again. So
okay, but maybe he's injury prone. But like
you picked him. Pick someone else.
He was healthy when he came to the Chiefs for 2 weeks. Okay, then he got hurt. But like I just feel like there's like I don't know. I think it's a lot of sketchiness around there. I would have.
Maybe it's better to have him away, though.
You think?
I mean, if it's going to be a distraction, I'd rather just know. Like,
yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just think that you got to do everything you can in your power to play in the college football playoffs because it's like that's just a different beast than like sitting out in a bowl game.
No, I know. I don't want to steal your thunder. I love when you get going like that, but I also too. Part of me is like, I don't want them. I hate when like a receiver like him comes back, especially saying now it's a big game, and we're gonna do a thing where like we spend like the first 3 drives of the game trying to force the ball to him. Because at that point, I'm just like, we have some pretty talented wide receivers here. Just go,
Yeah, but even like I don't know if you declare for the draft, aren't you away from the team?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, because he'll start training on his own and
yeah, like I would be there for the team at the very least. I don't know. In my opinion, like if you're one of the top receivers on your team and you can guide them and help them in any way against Georgia, like I'm doing all I can, even if it's like in an assistant coach-esque like built-in role, to try and help them in game changes and whatnot. I just think that you have to in the college football playoffs have everything you can and do it all together. And Ohio State has something to prove. Like they're not that good.
Maybe it's just like we're gonna get blown out.
Yeah, I could be. I don't know. I forget what the spread is there, but it's
6.5.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ohio State hasn't done anything to prove me, but I'm out. I just JSM or JSN just like I would have been there at least for my team.
Okay, well, so I mean, so now we know if Charlie DiSturco played for Ohio State, he would indeed be trying to participate in the bowl game, at least the
Yeah.
bowl game efforts. So,
Yeah,
just in case.
if Hines Ward could play without an ACL his entire career, and countless players play on torn ACLs and finish and win the Super Bowl, you could play through an injury or at least help your team at some capacity. That's mine.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. You know, it's tough for the bowl game injury stuff is sketchy, and like I'm done like saying you should or you shouldn't. I hate doing both sides of the argument. Like I get it. Sure, every situation's different. Like again, I'm glad he did it like now, because it's just like, dude, just go away now. Like at least it's not see ya.
Yeah.
Like whatever. So tell me about Mike White. Tell me about the luckiest team in football, the Minnesota Vikings. Tell me about Mike White magic running out just at the end. I was rooting for your Jets. I really was, because they're just fun, man. They are. I have one of my really good friends is a Jets fan as well. He's like the guy I text with the most on Sundays, and he loses his mind. I said to him, Jets +3, and he said, no, they're going to get killed. And sure enough, he's that, optimist, pessimist type of guy. He will never endorse betting on the Jets. So I was rooting for him. I think they're a fun story, because I'm just like so anti Zach Wilson with the whole, he kind of just like rubs me the wrong way. So I was rooting for Mike White.
Did you have Jets +3?
I did not take it. I took
okay. I was gonna say if you had rooting interest.
No, so I got out of the game in a really smart way. I took Minnesota team total under 24, which absolutely did not cash. So that was good.
Yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, this is how I look at it. Watching 5 field goals is not fun. Like, it was not fun.
No,
but it was very, like, I don't know. I go back and forth, but the Minnesota Vikings are the luckiest team in football. Like, it actually makes me so angry watching this team pull shit out of their ass week after week. Like, it's like, they get the fumble with Josh Allen. Oh, they stop the Jets how many times in the red zone? Oh, Jets are first and goal on the 1 yard line, and they turn it over on downs. Braxton Berrios drops a catch. Why are we throwing to Braxton Berrios? I'm not sure. But it's just like, I can't believe the Minnesota Vikings win these games. They're an underdog, I'm pretty sure, right now against Detroit, because the line has moved so heavily in Detroit. Like, this team is not good. The Jets, Mike White did not play great to start, but it's like, even like the little things, like the interception in the beginning was a tip ball that he just like, that the Vikings stumble on, and then all of a sudden they're in field goal range. That's 3 points right there. That Conklin drops a ball that's right on his chest. The Jets didn't play great until the end, but it's like watching week after week this Minnesota Vikings team somehow get every bounce. It's aggravating. I'm done. Done with the Vikings. I'm going to take the Lions next week. I don't care.
Dude, the Lions are -1.5.
Yeah.
That's
wild. This is another like pros Joe's like Cowboys.
Yeah, but how much has the line moved though? That like could you have gotten Lions? Was Lions 3?
Not 3. Like, it was under the key number, so it wasn't even
2.5. You could have got 2.5 at one point, +2.5 at one point.
Yeah, I think the Lions are winning outright. I don't think I think the magic is running out for this Vikings team at some point, and it's going to come in a full, just like complete avalanche where everything's going to go wrong because everything's been going right. I mean, it helps when you have Justin Jefferson on your sideline and lining up every time, but this defense is not that good, and the Jets just couldn't make them pay. I don't know, man. It's so deflating watching that game because they had so many chances and they just couldn't score.
How bad is this? So every week I do I blindfold myself and I write down what I think the spread is going to be in every game and guess the line, and then I write it down. I'm really good at it, by the way. I've
humble brag.
My power ratings are so good. Then I circle, that's where I start my handicapping. I circle what I think is what was the biggest disparity. I guessed Minnesota -6.
Oh. The Lions are good, man. They ever since.
No, I know, but like, think about it. Minnesota's a dome team. The Lions, okay, we call home field for the Lions what, 2?
2-3, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they get a full 3. I'd say 2.5. And then I think that Minnesota, I thought they would be about 8 points better.
But see, here's the thing: the Lions, when they not only have they been playing well, they're second in their division. By the way, I think it's like you look at them and you're like, oh, we saw the beginning lines where they were 1-6, But they won 5. They're 5-1 in their last 6. And when they played Minnesota all the way back then in week 3, they only lost by 4 in Minnesota. They match up well with this team. They have a fully healthy roster finally. Jamal the Vulture Williams is taking every touchdown, and Amon St. Brown is back. But I don't know. I would have said 3. I would have said a field goal. I feel like that would have been like the perfect spot of like Vikings, Lions. Vikings are the better team, but the Lions are only catching 3 despite this whole disparity and how the Vikings are this, this 2-loss team. But
I whiffed on that.
Yeah. How'd you do on the other ones? You come close?
I'm very good. So out of all the games, the only one that I wasn't within a point of were Minnesota and then Carolina, Seattle. I had Seattle as a 9.5 point favorite. They're a 5.5 point favorite.
Okay. Hey, sometimes you miss on 1 or 2, but accuracy. The kid is showing some promise. That's what we're all saying here.
That's all. I'm telling you, it does well. Quickly, what do we think? Do you like ties in the NFL? The G-men, the Commanders? Yeah. Do you like ties?
No. I think that I don't think that this sport should be able to have ties. I think at the end of the day, like do something like how college football does after the full overtime period, or something like hockey does where they do a shootout. And I think that there needs to be something where like it's like 2-point conversions or something like that, just because we're not soccer. Like we don't have a 90-minute tie. Like let's go out, let's go play a full game, let's go to overtime, and if there's no scoring, let's bring out something else to decide this game, because no team should be rewarded for how they played. And the Commanders Giants game, that overtime was just a disgrace. And like someone has to win it, I know, or I guess you want to be like, oh, you're so bad, you don't deserve a win. Neither team does. I think someone needs to.
But what if it decides a playoff spot, like some gimmick, like 2-point conversions or like field goals, like that's what my problem is. That I hate the shootout in hockey. It's just become, it's such a joke, because if you lose in the shootout, like the team like loses in the shootout, they lost the game, technically they got a point, and they go into the dressing room and it's like, what does the coach say? Like, we lost the skills competition. Like there's no, like it's very yes, if you go to the game, you leave with the result, but it's very, it really doesn't get us to a conclusion, because it's like, how do we really evaluate our team? Like, you guys lost tonight. It's like you lost in a freaking skills competition.
Why don't you just do then first the score in overtime with no time period, no time clock? We just literally go until someone scores.
They'll never go. It's like, that's abuse, because they can play for days.
You think they can play for days? I don't know. I think at some point or another, like to pull out something. Listen.
No, but you can't do that in 82 game schedule. You can't do that in 82 game schedule.
Do you want to go to a game, sit down, spend like $100 on a game ticket, get a couple beers, call your food in, and enjoy or watch a 4-hour football game that goes to overtime, and you walk away with a tie where they're just like, well, no one won? I mean, yeah. I don't. You want to?
Yeah, the World Cup, watching the World Cup, and I hate soccer, has made me like ties. I want draws.
Goodness, Tim.
It's so much better, because I don't want the game decided by some stupid gimmick. I like that the NFL has ties, because the season, you only play 17 games. So I don't want the difference, like a difference between a win and a loss is a huge, huge deal. And I'm so glad that it's not like, doesn't come down to a 35-yard field goal contest.
Well, no, but that's when you make them do. What about 2-point conversions, or like start at the 20?
No, hate it.
No, Tim, no. This is not fun. This is how you have to win the game. Someone's got to win the game. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I don't want to watch a tie. I don't want to watch a tie. I don't want to enjoy. If I sit down and I watch a tie, I get angry. When I watch a soccer game and I'm like 0-0 through 90 minutes, I was like, I should have just like done something else, like knit. Like I should have like gone into knitting. Charlie,
so much
more entertaining.
Charlie, shut up with knitting. You'll bet on anything. You'll sit down for 4 hours and bet on anything.
I will bet on anything, but I need a result. I need a result.
Protest. Yeah.
I am in protest. This is absurd. Like, I don't want to go in, watch a game in which I have a money line, and then only watch it, just be like, well, here's your money back. You pushed. Like, I want to either come in and be like, I lost this bet or I won this bet. Like, I don't want to come in and push.
Well, no, because we had the conversation about hockey. Like, I keep losing overtime bets.
Yes.
I wanted to, if we could draw and then we would be able to bet draw and
Okay,
get draw
but that's different. That's different because this is why that's different, because overtime hockey is a 3-on-3. You take away 2 players and open up this entire field. That's like playing football and being like, all right, let's take away 1 offensive lineman or 2
That's
offensive
what you're
linemen.
saying with the stupid 2-point conversion stuff.
No,
That's
the
what
2
you're saying.
no, but or I'm saying like no, because you have a full personnel out there, and it's you have a full personnel. Do you understand how fluky a 3-on-3 hockey game is versus
yes,
like
you understand how fluky 2-point conversions
okay,
are?
then start at the 20 and go 4 downs. You have to score on those 4 downs. Back when we were in middle school, we go back to when we were in middle school. We're out in the grass field. We never punted. We never tied. You went out and you had to go for it on 4th down. Like you were playing pickup football with the boys, and there was no such thing as ties, and there was no such thing as punting. There's no such thing as field goals. It was go out and you have 4 downs to get the first.
No. What happens is when you play backyard football and you're like, no, let's settle it. Next, we each get 1 possession or whatever. And then someone throws an incompletion. You go, well, that was the stupidest thing ever. It's not satisfying. It's the stupidest thing ever. Give me soccer. Convince me. I'm in for ties. I'm all in for ties.
You don't even bet the World Cup. What are you in for?
I hate it. I don't know how to do it.
You know how to do it, but you're in for ties. Like, what are we doing here, Tim?
I've been taking to bundos, both teams to score. I'm going to be broke.
Yeah, exactly, because you're watching nothing happen in soccer. Versus, and then they're like, oh, well, tie. All right, chalk it up. Great game, guys. Or like, how about like the teams are not even trying half the time to get better positioning and stuff, which I understand to a degree, and like teams tank or teams throw stuff in the NFL and NBA too. But it's just like I'm trying to enjoy a game with a winner and a loser. And I'm not getting that right now.
Yeah, my problem is I get the winner and loser. I just don't think that there's a right way to do it, that it actually justifies like you won the game, you lost the game. That's my problem.
But I think what's another 10 minutes of a football overtime game, or what's like another?
No, because they won't do it. I wish they could play all day, but they won't do that. So they're gonna have to end the game at one point.
They won't do that, but they'll add an extra week and make it even worse on them. But like 10 minutes, like
fair. No, you're fair. You're right.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Morals and if it's good or not? The NFL doesn't understand.
I don't want you to get lost. I wish they could play all day, but since they won't go for it, I don't like how it just ends in some gimmick.
So you don't like college football overtime?
The 2-point conversions thing I hate.
Okay,
I liked
it
when it was 25. I liked it. It's the best it can be, because every game you have to basically have a winner and loser in college football because of
you do it in the NFL too.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Oh my goodness. They tie in college football after like 2 times. That tie is going to be a blemish on their record, especially for some of the better teams.
We can't even figure out 4 teams that went undefeated and had 1 loss and put them in a playoff. We'll break everyone's brain if we have ties.
That's true. But let's do the same thing with the NFL. Start at 25.
Well, they're the 4th seed. They tied a really good Georgia team. No. You can't do it in college football. The NFL, because they actually have standings. I'm in for the tie. World Cup.
If you like the 25 in college football, I don't understand how you don't like the same thing in the NFL if they can't score in overtime.
No. No.
Tim, we're gonna have to duke this out later, man. You got me all riled up.
I know Hutton's literally like, I have so much editing to do. Well, anyway, speaking of World Cup, you've been betting the World Cup. We saw the you're a guy that's gotta have action on everything. So like we kind of went out. How's the World Cup going?
Pretty good as of late. It opened up not great. I don't log my World Cup picks because I'm not an expert. I'm just kind of there to bet because it's on. Because it's who doesn't want to bet on 10 a.m. soccer and 2 p.m. soccer? Like I want to sit down and work and have the game up on the TV. But I just do smaller amounts. I've been enjoying it. I mean, I think that, and this goes back to our whole tie argument too. Like I don't enjoy watching a full soccer game unless I have action on it. So I have to have action on the game at some capacity. My biggest win was the Spain points bet. I don't know if you micro bet or points bet at all.
Explain that to the audience.
Yeah, so I bet on Spain under first goal in 39 minutes against Japan, and they scored in I believe it was the 11th minute. So I put down I only bet like $2 or $3 for the points bet, but it's like for every goal, every minute they're under when they score, you get $3 to the minute. So I was in the 11th minute because it was in the 39th minute. That's $28. So I made like 28 times 3, which is like whatever, $80. And if they don't score the entire game, then I lose a lot of money. But like you could stop loss it at a certain point. But basically it's like that. So I think that when you bet totals, first time team scores, it's fun if you don't have that much interest in a game to throw a couple bucks and just sit back and watch. Right? I'm a guy that likes to have action on everything. If I don't love a side, or if I know that the side I want to root for is not the smart one, I'll micro bet it. I'll points bet it. If you want to get real crazy, and I don't do this, but I have friends that do this, you can bet on things like the next pitch, or like how the drive is going to end in football, punt, touchdown, or field goal. I don't know if you've ever gotten into that, but that is kind of exhilarating to watch. My friend, he'll be like, especially like when the Broncos, that game, that horrid Broncos primetime game where no one scored a touchdown and
Colts,
they lost it,
was that the Colts game?
Yes.
Yeah.
My friend bet punt every possession. So he made out like a band. He just kept betting punt.
So were the odds eventually like super juiced or what?
No, because it was like minus. I mean, it would get to like minus 130 or so, but it wouldn't be like minus 200. Yeah.
Wow. See,
but
the reason I don't do it is I'm terrified of bad value. I have an account at every single sports book under the sun because I will shop for 1 cent of positive EV or 1 cent of the best line. Like, so I get terrified when I'm like mobile, like live betting or any type of this micro betting. I'm like, is there a better line somewhere else? And then I have like 10 screens open. And then by that time I didn't make a decision quick enough. I'm terrified of not getting the best line that's been like so beaten into my head that it's made it so like it's been possible for me to bet these types of things.
Yeah, but if you're bored or like if you're out of game and you're like, oh, I want to bet on the next pitch or the next at bat or someone to get a hit. Like, I think that's fun if you throw a couple bucks on it. Like, I'm not saying throw your bankroll on it, but I'm saying enjoy the little things, which is like,
no, it's true. Because if you're betting $3, like the juice really doesn't like have that much effect. But I'm like, I really like, it's been beaten into me that I'm so afraid if I bet something at 120 and then I minus 120, I heard somewhere else it's minus 123. Like I'll be sick over it.
Oh,
I will literally be sick over it.
I get so upset when I bet a game and then the line like slightly moves against me. And I'm like, I can't believe I just did that. I was like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, is the line going to move? I think the line's going to move this way. So I think I'm going to bet it now. And then you miss it. Or if you get inside your head and you're like, I'm going to bet this now, or I'm not going to bet this now. I'm going to wait a second because I don't think the line will move. And then you wake up in the morning, like I'll do it overnight college basketball lines. I'll leave the line's not going to move that much, maybe a half a point. I wake up and 2 points are gone by and I'm like, well, now it lost all its value because like a point in college basketball is so meaningful. I don't know. I enjoy, I'm very like picky with how I do it. I think that just comes with us working at like a sports betting company. But I think when you micro bet and you do, or you live bet, like as you watch a game, I think it's fun if you throw a couple dollars down, have some fun. Like you're not, or like throwing on anytime touchdowns. It's the same thing as that, where you're just like,
again, I get sick over it. I get sick over it.
You have some fun. You have a side entertainment. You throw $5 down versus your normal size unit. It's not the end of the world if you lose 3 anytime touchdown scores, but you win that anytime touchdown score and you're like, bro, I'm the man. Like you can't even touch me. Like I just had like whatever Kyle Juszczyk to score a touchdown. Like I go back to him every time. I don't know why, because he scored this past weekend with Brock Purdy. But I don't know. I find it fun. I'm a guy that bets on everything. I don't bet as much on the stupid things that I know that they're stupid. And I think that it's the same thing with parlays, right? You bet parlays?
Nope.
Okay, so you're just a whole like, I'm like boring old 60-year-old Tim.
It's ruined the value art talk has ruined my fun experience. Like even if I hit Juszczyk like 60-1 first touchdown and someone else tweeted a ticket of 62-1, I'd be sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trained. Like seriously, so I have a buddy who's like, he's like, what's the line at DraftKings or whatever? I'm like, oh, -7, it's minus 115 though. And then somewhere else he bets like minus 120. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't care, man. I have more money in that account. And I'm like, why? I'm just trained. Like I'm terrified of having a bad line.
Right, but I understand that with like if you're betting your full unit size on a game. But like you don't ever sit down and you're like, I want to have some fun. I want to bet on parlays. You're just old man Tim. Like I got to take a side or a total, and I got to sit back and watch.
I take sides and totals. Can't bet anything else. And then I'll say to myself, because I'll be like, because I'll see it. I'm like, oh, I have plus 300 for that, and I'm like, I know there's plus 310 out there. It's not even in my state that this book, and I'm like, 310s out there, I can't take it.
Oh my goodness. No, I love to just sit back and I mean, obviously like the NFL scoring is down, so it's killed me, but like just to sit down and be like, I'm gonna throw $5 on like 4 random anytime touchdown scores, parlay them together, and hope that we get like an electric game. Because when you hit them, they're exhilarating. And I'm profitable because I hit that 10 for $8,000 parlay one a few years ago. But it's just I don't know, it's a side entertainment if you're not throwing down your normal unit size and that's what I always tell people. It's like I don't recommend you parlaying, but if you're gonna do it, throw it like $5 or $10. Don't throw like $100 parlay. Like the people that do that are stupid. But old man Tim doesn't even throw a $5 parlay.
No,
I don't know if it's living in your parents' attic or if it's money's tight or whatnot.
Because the parlay adds to 40 to 1, and then I see that it could have been 41 to 1 somewhere else, and I'm like, oh, puke. I can't do that to myself. I can't do this knowing something else is
popping.
I'm like, there's something better out there, and I just was too lazy. And it's like that book isn't even in my state.
Yeah. Oh, Tim, this hurts me because when we hang out and we bet, like I'm gonna be parlaying random stuff.
Dude, I'm side total. Side total.
Fine. You can just root with me, I guess.
Yep. That's what it is. I'm Tim Kalinowski. Hutton Jackson's our producer. You're Charlie DiSturco. Tell us where we can find you, Charlie.
Find me on Twitter, the Action app at Charlie DiSturco. Twitter is where I kind of run my domain and all my stuff. Writing college basketball is in the thick of it, so doing a lot of college basketball content right now at the Action Network. So it's been a fun couple of weeks, and I'm going to the Jimmy Fee Classic tonight, so I'm actually hyped.
Nice.
Texas and Illinois, and then Duke and Iowa.
Wow, that's a good slate. That's a good slate. I would that's actually pretty good. I'm pretty jealous of that. I'm Tim Kalinowski at Timmy Cal 12 on Twitter, T Kalinowski 12 on the Action app, Timmy K on TikTok. Oh, find me.
You're struggling.
I know. I don't even know my own name.
Just end it. It's over.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna follow me anyway. You know, if you made it to the end, you already follow me probably. All right, that's it. That's a wrap.